Tom Busby's free YouTube site at dtitrader.com/YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I just want to make sure I get in that page real quick. Let's see, what have we got going on here? Welcome into our YouTube audience. And like, subscribe, say good morning in the chat. We'd love to hear from you guys. Get my like in there, and my subscription's been there for a while, but uh, jump into that chat, say good morning, and we'll see how things go. Risk disclaimer: we are going to be talking about markets. Got a big picture view, but we're also going to be talking about things that get a little bit more detailed. So let me clarify: there is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone will be responsible for the decisions you make, so make sure you consult your financial advisor. Find out what trades work best for you. Always consider risk, and remember that past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, a couple news things. We keep track of crude 101.72, overnight high at 103.31. They're back down below 100 at 99.11 right now. Been down to 96.50, kind of pivoting around that 100 area. We'll see how that works. Iran's always in the headlights. I guess it's one of the main focuses right now. We got 2 days here in April, this day and tomorrow, and then the markets close on Good Friday, but we'll still get the employment situation report. Key levels changing up a little bit. 65.62 is the open of the month. 63.80 the open of the week. That's 63.53 quarter. Low of the week, low of the year. Um, but not the low of the quarter because we are in a brand new quarter. Now, a couple questions that I want you guys to consider as we move through. Since Iran is our main focus, we want to know what time is going to be important. And the best way to think about this: sunrise. When is sunrise in Iran? I'll give you the answer right here. It's about 10:10 p.m. to 10:20 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. The thing to remember when you're looking at Iran and you're trying to convert to time, they've got one of those interesting time zones where it's a half hour shift. So you got the number of hours, but then you have a half hour. So it's a little bit interesting. Certainly worth taking a note at and paying attention to. But we want to pay attention to sunrise because a lot of the early news that we're going to get on Iran comes out in our late night. So if you're up late paying attention to the market, this is a good time to watch.
And
So
I'll say this, I was talking to Tom, I think yesterday or the day before, and we downloaded an app on our phone called the World Clock, and you can add times from around the world to your, the main page on that app and know immediately what time it is over there. Like I can tell you right now, it is 6:36 p.m. over there, 6:36 p.m. So there are several world clock apps. I think any of them will work. But yeah, do that on your phone. Download that World Clock app. It is
yeah,
amazing.
and those clock apps, Jonathan, are very handy because not only can you keep up with Iran, you can also keep up with Sydney, Australia. You can keep up with Tokyo. You can keep up with Singapore. You can keep up with London and Frankfurt, Germany, and Paris, France, and any time that you're looking at, because as we look at the market as traders, we want to see what markets are going to be having the biggest impact at any given time, and knowing when those markets open in other parts of the world becomes kind of an important thing. So definitely get a clock like that, a world clock where you're paying attention to those things. And quite frankly, if it hasn't already been done, and I'm sure it has been done, we need like a trader's clock that has the opening bell going off throughout the day, all parts of the world, letting you know where that is. Just thought in there. Let Adam and the crew get moving on that one. So let's see. Apparently, I'm looking at some of the discussions. 6:36 p.m. in Iran. Right. Anyway, let's move on and let's move to our next question. What is the play when the VIX is at 24? So if we look at the VIX and it's around 24, what are you guys thinking? All right. Not seeing too many questions or too many answers. I will tell you my answer. Keep pocket puts on. Bob, that's a great one. Market 24-hour clock. Thanks for that, Jim. Pocket puts. Yeah, definitely. There is cause for concern, a little bit of chaos to keep an eye on. Um, so yeah, that definitely is something to look at.
And let me put something in perspective for everybody. How many days a year do you think that the VIX is above 20? You ever thought about that? To put things in perspective?
Well, I would say not very often, Tom, but this year probably a lot more than usual.
Exactly. This is an exceptional market where danger is lurking out there. Going back to the start of the Iran conflict, you have to remember that. And if you go back and remember, this works, folks. It's a warning sign when it's at 24. So you can't be comfortable, with a full portfolio in this type environment. And there'll be plenty of time, I believe, to make up for this lost time where we're saving money rather than losing money.
All right. So definitely keep an eye on that VIX to understand, when that caution should be a key word of application. Let's keep going here, though. Another question. What is the open, high, and low of the first quarter of 2026? That quarter just wrapped up. We opened at 69.02 for the quarter. Of course, the open of the first quarter is also the open of the year. The high, 70.43, was the high of the first quarter, and it is currently the high of the year. And the low of the first quarter, 63.53 quarter, also the low of the year. So if you're going back saying, what's the quarterly high? What's the annual high? Well, in this case, they're the same, at least the previous quarter. Of course, we do have a new quarter now, which opened at 65.62. So far, the high of the second quarter is 66.43.75, low 65.61. But it's that first quarter that we're paying the most attention to right now because that's helping us understand what we're seeing currently. In other words, let me just break this down for you. The number that I think everybody needs to be paying attention to for the next few days, maybe the next few weeks, Tom, is probably that low of the first quarter at 63.53 quarter. It's a number that we don't want to see from a bull's perspective, even though as a bull I've been sidelined much of March. But that's the big one, right? Now, if the market starts climbing, then we get to pay attention to those other two numbers, 69.02 and 70.43.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, and just another question that came to mind while I saw the slide. Where is the major resistance in the current market? Does everybody know where that number is? The major resistance. It's around, I'll just give you the numbers, 66.85 to 67.25. That's your major resistance.
Yeah, and that would be a pretty big event, getting you a bit closer to the open of the year than to the low. So, yeah, pay attention to those kind of numbers and lets you know what you're looking at, what you're looking forward to. So if you're down below that area, a lot of attention to the low side. You start getting above that, you start paying attention to that midline, maybe even the higher end. That's the definition of a pivot number. Now let's go through one other. Tom, this was something that you brought out. What is the most likely date for the winds of war to calm down? and you're looking at the 4th of July. And that's, of course, well into, or I guess at the beginning of the third quarter. So basically, you're saying that this quarter is all about setting the stage. And once you get the stage set, maybe you can see something happen.
Yeah, and folks, if I told you, this is my history, which expands over 40 years, if I told you the most significant date out there in a market that has been trading the way this one has, and I mean below the yearly open, monthly open, all that, it's always July the 4th. I've talked about it for years. Two things are going to happen on July the 4th. And I have a webinar every year, and Chuck knows this, and Jonathan knows this, right around July the 4th. The reason I do that, because that date will set the tone. Either we will accelerate the trend coming in, or it will reverse. And I'll help you read it, and you'll have a head start on most people out there because of that experience I have around that date. So I know it's out there a few days from now, but I'm thinking ahead because I'm thinking of stocks I want to own in my portfolio for the second half of the year. I'm thinking about timing to get funds committed again, and everything goes into that date, July the 4th. And so I think that, as I told you at the start of this conflict, as we were going lower, lower, and lower, I do believe, still believe, that we'll be higher at the end of the year. I still believe that. Got to see numbers to justify it, but I still believe that. I just don't like the emotional suffering you got to go through getting there when you're in this stage of the market. That's just me personally. And I just said, why fight it? Why not just wait and pyramid it up once it starts? That's the way I think about it. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And we have seen just as early as last year the market's ability to recover from a late first quarter, early second quarter low. If you'll remember, we were down significantly at the start of April last year, and you look at where we finished. So there is a precedent to the market climbing up in the second half of the year.
About a
All right,
30,
so
I said president, about a 30 anyway, 30-year history.
Yeah, 30-year history. So precedent. I was using the judicial term. Listen, we're going to throw that in with penultimate into our terminology list. So keep adding on the words. Questions and answers. Here we go. DTI enters the second quarter with approximately an 80% accuracy rate. And it begs the question, who do you think you should listen to? Let me tell you something, guys. Tom's recent market calls on the last day of February, he said to be careful. Circle your wagons. We've seen how the market reacted. You've been with the pocket puts most of the month, cycling those out. You guys have seen the results. They speak for themselves. So you can tell everybody in the chat how great that has been for you. Back in early 2024, Tom said gold would bottom around Valentine's Day, February of 2024. You saw the historic move in not just gold, but also in silver. First 5 days of 2022, Tom said, do not be long. Get short if you are comfortable trading short. So when it comes to who should I listen to, Tom, I'm waiting for your opinion. What have you got on the market?
That's a good setup, Chuck. I had to laugh about it, but everybody, look, that trades with real money has ups and downs, and it's a tough market, and you just gotta, like anything else in life, you didn't get here by quitting at the first time you ran into a headwind. You got here through perseverance, and we're in that perseverance stage right now because I'm just like you. You're sitting here and you're thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I do? Well, sometimes not doing anything is the best logic. However, this is a period of time, and I'll ask this question in here. Everybody here should have joined me for my live trading in April, in my opinion. $299. So I asked everybody this morning, I said, hey, do you think $299 was worth what you learned today? Today, not the other 4 lessons I'm going to teach. You know what? The response was overwhelming after I showed them how to capture premium in a short-term basis to make money. And I said, this is what I do. Once that VIX gets below 20, 80% of the time, I'll go out and find these kind of opportunities, like on that 48-hour cycle. Who was there this morning in the live trading? Maybe you can capture better. I'll be back another 4 sessions. But you talk about a giveaway, $299 to learn what you learned this morning. That tape alone's worth that, more than that, actually. Anyway, believe me, it was a very great class. Educate yourself, folks. Prepare yourself. You got about 2 or 3 months here to take in all you can, get your game plan in place. And I want you to make money, but you do have to do something yourself.
And just a reminder, Tom, for anybody who was not there, there will be a recording. So if you sign up, you get access to the recording. And if you sign up right now, we'll even give you an access to the recording that just happened. So you get the full picture. We do record these sessions, so don't worry about being a little bit late. Go ahead and sign up now, though, so you can take advantage of that information in the market. Okay, now let's move forward a little bit here. We are now in Train and Trade Monday through Friday in the month of April. So new month, new slide, well, slightly new, but we're going to continue doing this at 11 a.m. Eastern. We really enjoy this. We know that you guys do too. Let us know in the chat how much you enjoy it, because that gives us encouragement to keep doing these sessions with you. Reminder that all trades in Train and Trade are going to be tracked through T-Buzz Talk and Trade, dtitrader.com/TNT. Don't forget to use that Telegram to keep up with events. Tom's First Books and the trilogy. So Roadmap to the Markets is available on Amazon. Winning the Day Trading Game with a complimentary audio book where you can click right there in the link and actually get an audio version, first few chapters. The Markets Never Sleep is available on Amazon, and of course, Trade to Win also available at Amazon. So check out Winning the Day Trading Game today and go to Amazon.com to add to your library. Now, online public resources that we recommend, ForexFactory.com, great news source. For those of you who were wondering what news came out early this morning, about 8:15 a.m. Eastern, and a little bit after. If you were watching Forex Factory, you knew. Econoday, another news source, gives you kind of a broader breakdown of some of these big news items. So I like using both of those. I like using Forex Factory to tell me where to look, and Econoday to get a little bit more detailed. And if you pay attention to earnings are a big factor in the market. We're pretty much through earnings season, but we'll be starting it up again very quickly. Earningswhispers.com, great site to see who's on tap on particular days on earnings. And if you've ever joined Tom's Sunday night sessions, recommend you do that next week. Actually, I think that'll be Monday, but that pre-week session is always a great view, and a lot of those earnings that they talk about in there. Adam does go and get that research from earningswhispers.com. Great website. He keyed me into that. If you're, looking at the schedule, it's a great place to go and check it out. And then the exchanges. These are probably the 3 busiest exchange sites in the world. CMEgroup.com. That's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange out of Chicago, obviously. We've got the New York Stock Exchange in New York, New York. And, of course, the Eurex over in Europe, probably based in Frankfurt. I need to check that out, though. A couple different organizations there coming together to form the Eurex. So if you're ever looking for European markets like the DAX or the Eurostox, Great place to go and get that information. You can check out the days that they're on holiday on all those websites through the holiday calendar function. And over at the CME, of course, we have that Fed Watch tool, which is going to be important at the end of this month. Now, more resources, DTI white paper booklets. These are the specific topics. Encourage everybody to check those out. If there's something that you think is missing, let us know. We can probably point you to where that white paper is. Or if we don't have it, we'll do our best to create a new one to fill in that library. Tom's YouTube page, click there to come in and join us. I can tell you right now, I'm looking at a group in here. I've got, I've got the usual suspects. So it's great to see everybody there. Of course, you can follow along with that streaming. DTI important terms to know, some of those professional terms. Uh, I jokingly say penultimate is one and precedent is another. Those are really just, I guess, dictionary terms, but we do have some professional language that we talk about, like ATR, average true range. We throw out acronyms, not quite as much as the military, although Tom's military background probably did bring that up because I talk to my relatives that are in the military, and when they start talking to each other, I have to stop and say, "Hang on, I don't speak your language." So if you're a little bit lost, I know what that's like. Important terms to know, good place to keep up to date, get your translations. Tom's penalty tape, and then Options EDU by DTI. Adam's done a great job keeping up with that, continues to update it. And then Tom's BNN interview from back in 2008 give you an idea of how we as traders approach particular situations in the market. So we're going to move on now to the FTD stocks. And let's see, decide how we want to do this. Let me just go ahead and click in here. And Jonathan, if you want to take over at any point, feel free. I need to, how do I take the,
Yeah, I'll take over. I'll take over, Chuck. Make it easier for you.
well, I had to drop down the zoom a little bit so I could see all the columns. I know that you've put more information in here. So
There is
when it,
more information, and it might change a little bit as the first 3 days go along. But but we have the January open, the year open column still there. As a reminder, the S&P opened the year at 6902. 6902. I've got the March open there. I've got the March high and low. Actually, to save some space, probably can take away the March open. We'll leave it there for now. We got the new month open here. I think what I'll do is I'm going to take away the March open and put the March midpoint over here. This is what I prefer to do. Tom, what you think about that?
Yeah, I think it sounds good.
So March mid, I'll get this done real quick. April's new open. And the first thing you can do, it very simple. Today's the first day of the month, so it's very simple process to go through these stocks and just say, did the new month open? Did it open above or below the midpoint from the prior month? Okay, so like the S&P, last month's midpoint was 66.32. April open is 65.62. There you see the NASDAQ, there you see the Dow, there you see crude oil, there you see gold. So you can get some, relative status there to where we opened this month compared to last month's midpoint. Now the day one high and low is there, and that's obviously tentative until the day is done. I'll be updating it throughout the day. And tomorrow it'll say 2-day high and low, and of course that'll be tentative too until we finally get through the first 3 days of the month, and the columns will change to FTD high, FTD low. And after Friday is the third day of the month, or excuse me, after Monday, I guess, suppose that'll be the third day of the month. Since Friday is a holiday, we'll have the 3 days set for the rest of the month. That works out nicely as we move into next week. Monday will be the third day of the month, and then we'll be set. We'll have our first 3 days set, and we'll have the Monday high and low set at that point. Let me share this document. As I mentioned yesterday, the link does not change each month. So we've moved on to April. Link's not going to change. If you want a copy of the March spreadsheet, just send me an email at row@dtitrader.com. Absolutely, Sean. First 3 days of each month are very, very important to us. So this will take shape here over the next several days. We'll mention it again tomorrow. We're pushing in about a half hour of today's session. So let's move on for now. Let's get to today's topic, Tom, the power of a plan. Now, if you know the way Tom does things, which most of you here probably do, some of you may not, everything starts with the S&P futures. All right? There's a ton of insights that you're going to learn from being here. Everything starts with the S&P futures right now. And after that, it's time of day. And we just kicked off a very important time of day we call Genesis at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which is the European close. European markets close at 11:30. One of the best insights you can take from being here is about 4 out of 5 days, the Genesis time frame can mark the high or mark the low. So let me ask a question. Is the market at the highs for the day or the lows for the day, or is it more closer to the midpoint? What I mean by market, I mean S&P futures. Type in the chat. If you think it's closer to the high, type in high. If you think it's closer to the low, type in low. If you think it's mixed, type in mid. We got a lot closer to the high point today. So if you're looking to trade today and you know the insight, 4 out of 5 days, Genesis can mark the high. Are you going to barrel into the market right now? Or are you going to wait to see how the market unfolds here during this half hour after the European markets close? That's right, you need to wait. So that's one of the biggest insights you can take away from these sessions. And it's really nice because we're always live at the Genesis time frame. All right, so let's get back to an everyday plan. And first of all, Tom does just a wonderful job of putting his daily pivot into the various Telegram channels. He sends it out via T-Buzz TV video that you can listen to every day. And today's pivot is 6605. Now, we don't get into the nitty-gritty of this every single day, but the purpose of this is really quite simple. Trying to keep you on the right side, the winning side of the market each day.
And let's just test that out. If you use the pivot number of 6605 and you shorted the market, you're probably losing money.
Almost certainly, because we know vast majority of all stocks will move with the S&P 500. So if the S&P is moving up, chances are your stocks are moving up too. And so play on the side of the S&P 500. That's what the pivot's for. We're at 6632 right now in the S&P futures. Tom pivot 6605. And you should use this pivot each and every day when you're thinking about trading. Try to remember in the back of your mind, maybe write it down. Okay, where's the S&P trading? Where is today's pivot? Trade with the S&P. Your results will increase. But Tom, before you even get to the daily look, and I know we focus a lot on the intraday info here at DTI, but you got to form a bigger picture idea of what you think about the market before you can do any kind of intraday trading. And MTI by DTI is a tool we have in design, and it is really perfect for that. So I wanted to showcase some MTI by DTI today. Here's a look at the S&P futures. Took this snapshot a moment ago. And just to explain what we're looking at here on the left chart, that's a daily candlestick chart of the S&P, and it has some lines on there. Before we get to the lines, across the top left of the chart, you can see we give you the yearly open of 69.02, and we're about 4% below that. We give you the month open, the new month open today is 65.62. We're over 1% above that from last night's open. We opened the week at 63.80. We're 4% above that. We give you the daily open price level of 65.62. Of course, that's the same as the month open today. And we give you the top and bottom lines. Now, what the top and bottom lines are, that's our proprietary MTI by DTI lines. And there's a couple things that you want to notice about this. One, just look at the trend of the lines. If I could, take out the candlesticks, you would see the trends of the line, they're shifting down. Shifting down. That's not necessarily a positive sign here for the market. All right. So what we do with these daily charts on MTI is the very first sign we want for a stock to, change its tune is to get back above those lines. And right now, 67.08 is the top line. And if you remember, that lines up well with Tom's major resistance of 66.75 to 67.25. That lines up really, really nicely for that. All right. So the market, it's been a fantastic week so far and a good start to the month. Up 4% for the week, up 1% for the month. But not only are we in the first 3 days of the month, but the market has some, pieces it's got to pick up, pieces of the puzzles, and got to pick up here and got some proving to do first. The other line you'll see on the daily chart, you see a gray line. It's very faint, but it doesn't shift very often. That is the monthly open line. All right. So that factors in as well. Now, that's the daily. I know most of you that use MTI probably focus on the daily to get a big picture idea of what the trend is doing. In an ideal situation, you'd have not only the price of the S&P 500 trending up and to the right, but you'd also have those MTI lines trending up and to the right. And of course, you would want the stock above its monthly open. Are there any questions about the daily chart on MTI? We're going to look through the Seven Sisters, then we'll go live and we'll look at some stocks of interest that you all have. And Charles, there's the slides again for you. Tammy says, please explain the arrows on the daily. So let's focus in on these arrows over here. Now the arrows are going to appear when you get, so for example, if we get a closing price back above this white MTI line, you would see a green arrow pop up. Similarly, I can't say that word very well, very similar to over here on the intraday where you saw that green arrow pop up. So any kind of new signal occurs when you get a closing price either above the white lines in the month open or below the white lines in the month open. Here's our most recent signal here, short, back on around 6,800, whatever day that was, early March. And this trended down nicely. Now, a couple things you've seen. Oh, back here, we had a clearly sideways market. Again, if you just take the price away, you can see those white lines are literally going sideways. They started to shift down more each and every week here. And we got that red signal, markets tracked down. So any more questions about the daily chart of MTI by DTI? This is really, really nice on your platform. You can set it up to where you can just cycle through all your stocks. We'll do that here in a little bit. Yeah, the yellow arrows, Bob, are there that if you have an active signal and it tells you to get out, you'll get a yellow arrow. Now, the 30-minute chart is, of course, based on intraday indicators, but it works very, very similarly, the same way. You have our proprietary MGI lines, and then you got this pink purplish line. That's an 8 exponential moving average. That's the only one that's not proprietary. But quite simply, we get above those 3 lines, you get a buy signal. And S&P is tracking up nicely on those lines. If we were to close below the 6601 level today, if the market were to reverse and close below the 6601, then all bets would be off. All right, so bigger picture, you wouldn't be short the S&P right now because we're above the month open. Remember, we mentioned this yesterday and day before. Every new month brings a chance to reset everything. Let's look at the NASDAQ futures, Tom. There's a look at the NASDAQ futures. 24,607 is the top MTI line. Here's the Dow futures, getting close. The top, you can see the top MTI line is covered up by the current price on this snapshot. So you'd look up here at the top left. That's why that's up there, to make sure we know what number is. 47,142. Dow's a little bit stronger than S&P and NASDAQ, isn't it? Here's crude oil. Intraday is all over the map. The top MTI line on crude oil is 107.24. The bottom line is 89.5. Here's gold. $48.50, the top MTI line. Here's silver. 78.07. And here's bonds. 113.05 is the bottom MTI line. 114.22 is the top MTI line. All right. So let's go live. I kind of, a lot of times on Thursday, Tom, we open up the roadmap. We say, let's beat the box and put stocks in that everybody wants to look at. I figured let's do that today with MTI by DTI, especially for those that have never seen this tool we have. So first stock we're going to look at actually is one I know Tom really likes, is AMD.
Now, if you were in the live trading I did this morning, that was my top pick, AMD. And if you look at it, AMD right now is at 212.52. But you can see why it was my top pick. On the daily, it's above the lines. On the on the short term, it's above the lines. And you can see this stock. I'll just tell you. I don't know if y'all remember. Who remembers the lesson I gave on selling puts out beyond 5, 10, 15 days to acquire stock? Anybody remember that lesson? Nobody remembers it? Well, I used that this morning for AMD because I want to own this stock in the second half of the year, but I'm not ready to buy the stock per se. I'm ready to take in premium for this, okay? And that's a stock I like, AMD.
Next one on the board here that we have in the chat is Micron.
short term, it looks like it's a world beater, but if you look at the long term, it's not ready yet. Still in the oven. Does everybody see that? This is what I was talking about, the structure of damage. This is probably one of the stocks that was leading us, comes in, and then all of a sudden, you had structural damage here, and it's trying to repair that over the last couple of days during the rally. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's see what else we got. Apple. There's Apple.
Now, if you look at Apple, Apple is sort of, this 3-day high on Apple's going to be key for the month. I can't wait to get it. I don't know what it is until I got to wait the next, I guess next Monday, right, Jonathan? That'll be the third day.
Right. Next Monday. Yep. Monday, April 6th. Let's see. The next one here in the chat is Tech Resources, TECK.
That looks fairly decent. What do they do? Way to go, John. Nice trade.
Tom, Tech Resources is a miner. They focus on copper, zinc, and coal, essentially, is what I'm finding here. Tech Resources.
Okay.
See what else we got here. CVX. Bruce wants to look at CVX.
Now, I wouldn't buy that stock.
Let's look at ARM. ARM.
I got one to put in there. Put GDX in there. Y'all know I like this stock, but I want to show you, I want to do a comparison of GDX versus GLD. If you look at GDX, it's gone into, if it closes up here above 92, 93, and over to the right, you can see it's very bullish. GDX is going into that zone where I like it. Now look at GLD next. I want to go to look at GLD. GLD's not as in good a shape as GDX. So GDX is outrunning GLD. And let's look at SLV. I agree with you. Let's look at SLV. All right, SLV looks good in the short term, but it's got a little bit more work to do on the longer term. But they're getting closer, is what I'm saying. We're about to come, gold and silver are about to come back in play based on what I've looked at. And I went through MTI and I went through a lot of these and I plugged it into the roadmap. I think all these, how many people would like to see the days where we had gold and silver rocking and rolling again? How many people would like those days? It's about to happen, so pay attention. I'm on it. I'm just waiting for the setups. April's going to be a tremendous time. I got a bunch of cash. I'm only going to put it at risk when everything is. When you hear me say I'm locked and loaded, you know I'm feeling pretty comfortable. Yeah, we'll look at corn. We'll look at corn. Now, there was news that came out on corn. There's a big report coming out today, but next week, if you look at corn, you can see they're selling it, and I'd stay out of it until next week. I think it's going to have a turnaround. In fact, I think that probably above the monthly open, which is 457, would be my pivot number. Okay, 457, Frank, 457. I would not be long corn though. Not during this stage of reporting. Okay.
And we got a last request for NEM, Newmont Money.
Yeah, see, there's another example of metal stocks about to heat up again. I'm loving it. Wouldn't that be great to have metals heat up for about 10 or 15 days? We could do some damage if it does, because I am your metals trader. Trade when the odds are in our favor.
All right, Tom, we know MTI by DTI works, a fantastic tool right there on Thinkorswim platform, but there's actually a new addition.
Yeah, let me talk about this where everybody understands where I'm coming from, okay?
We've gotten a lot of great feedback that you love the web-based portal. So,
Yeah,
happy
let
to
me talk about this. A couple things I want to say. Okay, how many people saw Top Gun Maverick? Okay, Top Gun Maverick. If you go back to the original show of Top Gun, the original show was in a different airplane. Y'all remember what airplane they were in, the original show? Yeah, F-14. And then they came out and called it Next Gen in the new one. Okay, so what happened? Well, times changed. They got more technology, things got better. So what we're doing with MTI, and I want everybody to listen closely, okay? What we're doing with MTI is that we're going to what I call MTI 2. MTI 2, because it's a web-based program that takes it to the next level. It picks out the options and it picks out what you should be long and short, and it includes a series of master classes to make you do it. Today, at least I'll say this, no later than the third day of the month, if you had MTI, you can go on and get it. But if you don't have it, you got to have MTI. They're separate, is what I'm saying. So if you have it, you better take advantage of what I've got this window open up, because the market timing dashboard is the next gen. And I'm going to do a lot with this one, just like I did with the original MTI 1, okay? So this is something you can access the all new one click in the members area, and then I'm going to put a series of master classes in place, because There'll at least be 5 I know of right now. I've been trading it, and it's got some changes I've got to make some alterations on. But the bottom line is, I think you're going to love what I call MTI2. Okay, that's coming. Now, it tees it up for you where you don't have to do everything you had to do with the original MTI, which is great, and tees it up to you on the newer version. Okay, and this is a web-based unit, and this is just web-based. That's an advantage. Where the other one was tied into the deal. So we're doing some work on it right now, but if you want to get it, okay, you can get both versions right now at one price. And I don't know what it is, but you can do that. And so I thought I'd talk about it, let you see it, take advantage of the day. This will end. What you're seeing today will end, okay, after the 3rd day of the month, okay? After the 3rd day. That's lifetime access. You ought to be part of this. Not only what's not on that slide, you're going to get 5 master classes with me for MTI2, okay? That's the story. Yeah, if you took advantage of this, that window's open for previous owners, okay? But this is the next generation. So I wanted to get that out there and let you know. So take advantage of it right now if you want it. Other than that, remember where resistance is in the current market. I've got it at 67 or 66.85 to 67.25. And if you looked at the top line on MTI, it was 67.08, I think, Jonathan's what I wrote down, 67.08. So thank you for being with us. It's Genesis time. And right now, you've got a market that is screaming and got some room to run if it stays above Genesis. That's all I'll say. So, Jonathan, that's all I got.
Tom, you talked about this in more detail on Sunday night at your planning session, so I've got that video ready to
Yeah, play it if you don't mind. You ought to listen to this. This is a lot more detail. A lot more detail. It's long, but it's worth listening to.
Yeah,
Welcome to the next generation called the dashboard. Take it away.
Yeah, let me just find a good starting point.